What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today we have another exciting deck tech video for you. We are going to be talking about Steelsong, one of the top 3 decks you're seeing getting played in Vegas, and probably one of your best options to be playing when it comes to those set championships. Really, the main decks we saw being played in Vegas were Ruby Sapphire, Amber Steel, and Ruby Amethyst. Still the big 3 contenders across multiple sets. Obviously Bucky threw off the meta, but then they nerfed Bucky all to heck, and now he is useless. Before we jump into that, as always, big shout out to the Patreons for making the giveaways on the channel possible. Definitely couldn't do it without you. It's a huge burden lifted for a small YouTuber to be able to do giveaways for the community and help to build the channel while giving back to the community. We just did a booster box giveaway not that long ago, and we've even done some Patreon exclusive giveaways, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the Patreon, you want to be able to win some exclusive stuff, definitely jump over there. Cheapest tier is $5, but there is also a free tier just to join in on the conversation. So if you just want to talk Lorcana, hop over to the Patreon and talk with us. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Steelsong. So the first 1-drop we're playing is going to be Robin Hood, Beloved Outlaw, a 1-cost 2/2 character questing for 1. I think everybody knows this by now, but these 2/2 characters are here as shift targets. Next 1-drop, and the only other 1-drop, and it is also a 4 of, is going to be this 1-cost Inkable Cinderella 1/2 stat line, also questing for 1, but her big deal is she is a singer 3, so she can come out turn 1 and sing those 3-cost songs on turn 2, which is pretty crazy because even 3-cost characters can't sing until turn 4. Then in the 2-drop slot, we do have 3 bare necessities. I think 3 is a good place to be in the current meta. Pretty much everybody's playing locations, songs, and items. Particularly the big 3 main decks, but even all the other decks are playing some amount of those. If you're playing somebody who's really low on those, or playing something like Hyper Aggro, maybe you're ending up inking some bare necessities, maybe 1. In pretty much every other matchup, bare necessities is definitely a card that you want to be able to play if you can, and snipe something out of your opponent's hand. Especially when you can sing it, the value just feels really good. Next up, our first 2-drop character, we are on 4 Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain, a 2-cost inkable 2/2 character questing for 1, but when you have 2 or more characters in play, he is going to be questing for 3, which just puts a crazy amount of lore pressure on. If you can go turn 1 Robin Hood or Cinderella, turn 2 Piglet, potentially use Cinderella's ability to clear out whatever your opposing threat is, and then turn 3 play anything else, you're questing for 3 or maybe 4 if you decide to quest with Cinderella, which generally isn't going to be the case, but you're questing for that 3 with Piglet and potentially keeping your field clear with Cinderella, which is a crazy combination of things. The only other 2-cost card we are playing in this deck is another character. It is Mr. Smee, Bumbling Mate. I love this card. Not everybody's playing 4 of these in Steelsong, but I think he's just fantastic. His synergy with Rapunzel is really, really good. He's coming down on 2 as an inkable character, questing for 2, and a 3/3 stat line, so even if they're challenging into him, he's likely to trade with whatever's challenging him. At the end of your turn, if this character is exerted and you don't have a captain character in play, deal 1 damage to this character. It is worth noting Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain is a captain, so he is going to prevent Smee from taking this damage, so keep that in mind if you're trying to take advantage of Smee with Rapunzel, or if you just want to potentially keep your Smee alive by having Pooh Pirate Captain on the board as well. And he is going to be questing on turn 3 and then also on turn 4, and if you got that turn 5 Rapunzel, you can get that heal down for 2, which is always great. You're not so focused on playing cards on 5 other than Robin Hood, but he really is something you, even with Robin Hood, you really want to be able to shift him if you can. And then we do have 4 Let the Storm Rage On, jumping over to the 3-cost slot, deal 2 damage to chosen character and draw a card. The draw card on this is oft overlooked, but is fantastic to keep the pressure on. It's going to just keep you in the cards, help you keep up with the early game for something like Ruby Amethyst, and the 2 damage is fantastic as well. More people are teching to 1/3s or 1/4s from what I've seen, so the 2 damage is getting a little bit less value in some instances, but it can definitely clean up targets, and it's going to be a great way to deal with like Chernobog's followers, Broom, opposing Cinderella's when it's relevant, Pooh Pirate Captain. Some of the cards that are in this deck are also bad to this deck. Also absolutely destroys like most things in aggro except for Daisy Duck. Then the other 3-cost song we're playing, you may have guessed it, we are on 4 Strength of a Raging Fire, a 3-cost inkable song this time. The last one was uninkable, and it's going to be dealing damage equal to the number of characters you haven't played a chosen character. So obviously if you're playing it on turn 2 with Cinderella, you're only getting 1 damage out of it, which doesn't feel great. If you're able to develop a second character, which is entirely likely, you are at least able to get 2 damage out of it, which feels a little bit better. But going into those turn 4 or 5, if you've been able to control the board a little bit, you are potentially dealing quite a bit more damage with this card. Then another great way to not only sing, but to get those songs into our hand, we're on 4 Ariel Spectacular Singer, a 3-cost inkable 2/3 stat line. The only thing she really feels bad to is Brawl and Madame Medusa, but Madame Medusa is going to be a little bit later than Ariel's coming into play. She's a singer 5, so she's going to be able to sing every single song in the deck. And when you play this character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a song card from among them and go ahead and put it into your hand. Fantastic to be able to Ariel into Whole New World. Obviously that's the ideal, or if you just need more removal, digging it up with Ariel can be great. We are on, I think, 20 songs with this list. We'll have it up on screen at the end. Then a great way to stop those opposing songs, fantastic in the mirror match, even better into Ruby Amethyst because it's going to potentially shut off Be Prepared in those later turns, is Pete, Games Referee, a 3-cost inkable character with a 3/3 stat line. Great stat line again against particularly Ruby Amethyst because it is going to deal with those snakes and those foxes in the early game, and it's going to be able to go ahead and, when you play this character, opponents can't play actions until the start of your next turn. Obviously there's no instant speed actions in this game, so it's really going to be until the start of their following turn after that they're going to be able to play actions. So you can potentially shut off Be Prepared. If you can cycle these out one after another, you could shut off Be Prepared for multiple turns in a row. Then next up, and the last card in the 3-drop slot, I am on 2 Lawrence, Jealous Manservant. This is another card that not everybody is playing in Steelsong these days. It's really good into Daisy Duck just to be able to go ahead and take her out in a favorable way while still getting quests for 2 in until he is destroyed. Obviously he does become a 0/4 once he kills a Daisy Duck because he has taken damage. However, you can heal that up with Rapunzel if it's relevant and get that 4/4 attack. Sometimes they may overlook him as a potential attacker, leave him on the board for that extra turn and allow you the potential to take advantage of just removing 1 damage with Rapunzel. You may only be drawing 1 card off that Rapunzel trigger, but you are going ahead and getting your Lawrence back up to a 4/4, getting him ready to take out another character. It's a 3-cost inkable character, 0/4 stat line, questing for 2, and when this character has no damage, he gets +4 attack, so he's a 4/4 as long as he has no damage on him. Great way to sing some of those songs as well, as he is a 3-drop character. Then we have a one of, I'm on 1, I Find Him, I Flatten Him, a 4-cost inkable action song. Banish all items, just straight up. The fact that it's inkable is really good because if you're not playing against an item deck, you're just going to be inking this card because it is going to be getting you no value otherwise. But when you're playing against that item deck, digging this up and having it in your hand is going to be absolutely devastating against them. They don't have any discard or any way to interrupt what you're doing with the cards in your hand, so they're not going to be able to take it from you, and you could just wait for them to load out a bunch of items. And then I find them, I flatten them, clear them up, kill a Tamatoa, and you're back in the driver's seat. And this is when I went back and forth on if I should play 4 or 3, but just because of the count of uninkables in this deck, I did end up landing on 3, and that's the 4-cost uninkable, and then along came Zeus, another action song in the deck, deal 5 damage to chosen character or location. Just absolutely fantastic. It doesn't really deal alone with any locations that are relevant in the meta, but it in combination with most of the cards in the deck is going to take out a lot of the locations that people are actually playing, and it's going to deal with many characters. A few things are going to be outside of its damage range, like Robin Hood, but it is even going to deal with Maui's and pretty much everything in Ruby Amethyst. It'll kill a Maleficent Dragon, as she does only have 5 defense. Along came Zeus, great way to deal with those big threats in the late game. It's also a great way to bring a Tamatoa down to size so you can deal with it with a weaker character. All of a sudden with one of these Smee trades with Tamatoa. Then we are on 4 Rapunzel, gifted with healing, a 4-cost inkable character, 1/5 stat line, questing for 2, and when you play this character, remove up to 3 damage from one of your characters, draw a card for each 1 damage removed this way. You've heard me talk about this card time and time again. I don't even know that I need to say it for the people who watch the channel pretty regularly, but you're drawing 3 cards, healing a character for 3, and getting a 1/5 character out who's questing for 2 by paying 4, and she's inkable. I think had this card come along later, one of those things would have been changed. It would have been questing for 1, it would have had a lower defense, it would have been not inkable, but I think since the backlash with Bucky, they're hesitant to do anything about any of the other cards that are, I don't know if I'd say broken necessarily, but are very good, are clearly like head and shoulders above other cards in the meta. But Rapunzel, absolutely fantastic. Great way to heal all those other characters in the deck and be able to go ahead and draw yourself some cards. Super good by healing actually another Rapunzel with Rapunzel, healing a Lawrence, or healing a Robin Hood. Those are your main targets. Or Smee, if you just want to get the 2 cards. Then the last card in the 4-drop slot, we are on 3 Prince Naveen. It was actually super lucky. I wanted to make this deck list video for a while, but I only had 2 Naveens, and I was talking about making it today. I was like, oh, I really want to make a Steelsong video later. Went and played League today. There's a $7 buy-in. You get a $6 pack for buying in. If anyone ever wants to play League with us, we're playing at Gem Mint cards in DeLand. That's in Central Florida, if you're not in Florida. But I only had 2 Naveens, and so you get 1 pack with buy-in, and I actually opened a Naveen in my pack, so I have the 3 that I needed for the deck. There are some deck lists that are running 4 Naveens. I just can't get behind that. There are situations where having Naveen in your hand is just bad. He is a 4-cost 3/3, so he has the same stat line as Smee, who costs 2. He's questing for the same amount as Smee, who costs 2. He is uninkable, unlike Smee, who is inkable. He does have Singer 6, so he can sing everything in the deck. The big thing with this character, the thing that makes him really good, is when you play this character, you may play a song with cost 6 or less for free. However, if you don't have a song in your hand, that ability is negated, and all of a sudden you're just looking at a 3/3 for 4 uninkable character who's questing for 2. Not very good. Dies to Medusa. So I think 3 is definitely the sweet spot. I've even seen people make the argument for 2. I think 3 is really where you want to be if you're at 20 songs. If you have a lesser song package, maybe you want to go to 2 Naveens, but Naveen, really good in the raid situation, really not good if you don't have a song. Then the last character in the deck, and the only 5-drop character, we are on 4 Robin Hood, Champion of Shirewood, a 5-cost inkable character, 3/6 stat line, which is pretty good for 5. 6 prevents it from dying to most things other than Maui. He is questing for 2, shifting for 3, so coming down really early in the game. If you can shift him and use him to sing A Whole New World when your opponent's been drawing a bunch of cards, it can be really super good. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you're going to gain 2 lore, so you can potentially be banishing characters and still gaining lore. You don't always have to be questing. When this character is banished in a challenge himself, whether it's your turn or their turn, you are going to go ahead and draw a card, so he is great at replacing himself. Still an absolute meta staple. I know the price on this has gone up a little bit. It's been back and forth, dipped down pretty low there for a minute, but it's gone back up quite a bit from what I've seen. It does make Steelsong one of the most expensive decks in the game, though. Then we have a 1-of Grab Your Swords. This is a card that not as many people are playing now. I still think it's pretty good in the mirror match. It's pretty good into green-purple. It is pretty good into Amber Amethyst aggro, or just to clean up a field that already has a little bit of damage on it, but is a 5-cost uninkable action song. It's going to deal 2 damage to each opposing character on the board, so definitely a pretty good card to have 1 of. I think because there are so many 1/3, 1/4 stat lines, or X3, X4 stat lines in the game now, made Grab Your Swords not as good as it used to be, but I think I could still justify a 1-of. Then the last card in the 5-drop slot, we are on 4 Whole New World. You have to be on 4 Whole New World with Steelsong. It is your main card draw engine. Ideally with this deck, you want to be flooding your hand to the board, playing a Whole New World, getting a new hand, and doing it again over and over again until you beat your opponent. But Whole New World is a 5-cost uninkable action song. When you play it, each player is going to discard their hand and draw 7 cards. But the interesting thing about this card now with Magic Dispel in the game is if somebody is playing Magic Dispel and you Whole New World, they don't have to discard, but they still get to draw the 7 cards, which is pretty crazy. Magic Dispel hasn't been seeing so much play in the meta because not everybody's on Steelsong. It seems really split down the middle. It's like 20 to 25% in each of the 3 big decks. That is making up for about 70% of the relevant meta right now. But Whole New World, great way to refill that hand and just keep the pressure on. Then the last card in the deck, and a fantastic card in the current meta, is going to be Cinderella Stouthearted, a 7-cost inkable character, 5/5 stat line. She is checking a lot of boxes in that she is a hero, princess, and a knight. So if you're trying to do some fun stuff with that, you can definitely fit her into the build. She is a shift 5, so if you want to get her down on those small Cinderellas, she can do it on turn 5. Resist 2, which keeps her from dying to Maui. However, she will banish a Maui, and whenever you play a song, this character may challenge ready characters. Definitely not an irrelevant ability when you're playing her in a Steelsong deck where you can play a lot of songs. She is questing for 3, which is absolutely crazy. just a real powerhouse in the meta. She really only loses in the current meta to something like Let It Go or Hades. Hades isn't seeing as much play, but people are playing Let It Go. She could be bounced back to your hand. Other than that, there's really not anything being played in the current meta that I'm aware of that is going to just straight out deal with a Cinderella. So absolutely one of the best cards in the meta as it stands right now. That is the breakdown on Steelsong. Love to hear you guys' thoughts on this in the comments below. Do you think I played the right cards? Do you think there's something I should be playing or shouldn't be playing? I know some people are divisive on Lawrence, so I'm really curious if you guys think I should have bothered putting Lawrence in there, or if I should have just focused on having more copies of some of the other cards in the deck. I do enjoy Steelsong. When I first got into Lorcana during set 2, Steelsong was one of the first 2 decks I started foiling out. I just saw the potential value of it going forward. I immediately started foiling out Ruby Amethyst and Steelsong because those were the 2 main decks I was focused on. And frankly, no regrets. I was buying foil Ariels when they were $7, and it's like a $20+ card now from what I've seen. But thank you guys, as always, so much for sticking around to the end. Crack on that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. We're getting so close to that next booster box giveaway. And when you see those toys, video games, and sweet, sweet Prince Naveen openings from a random pack off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.